Okay, we're all gonna die. Isn't that a nice way to start this conversation off? Stating a fact that absolutely terrifies people. No, it's not. And let's make it even better. Let's talk about aging. Fun. At least in my opinion, aging in today's society is terrifying. But what if I told you that that didn't have to be the case? What if I told you that you never have to fear aging again? What if I told you that the metaverse will save us all? Because the metaverse will turn aging from a terrifying problem into an endless opportunity. And that is something that we need. Because according to the World Health Organization, between the year 2015 and 2050, the proportion of the world's population over the age of 60 will nearly double, meaning more people that we need to be cared for, and more people that will have to live through the nightmare of aging to a point of unrecognition. Or do they? Okay, I want everyone to please do me a favor. Raise your hand. Raise them. Oh, thank you. Clench it into a fist. Okay, that's it. Thank you. You can take them down. Okay. Do you see how your muscles responded to the information sent to your brain or from your brain? And that correlation between body and brain isn't something that we reflect upon or even notice. But what if that connection disappeared and your own body became a prison? That is actually how many elderly have described their situation as age does not upon them, as having a young mind trapped in an old, failing body. And I guess that most of us, if not everyone maybe, have heard a person in our life complain about feeling 30 on the inside but looking 80 on the outside. But it's more than just dreaming about the looks you had at 25. It's about having more to give than your body permits you to. And even though modern medicine feels like a bad futuristic sci-fi movie sometimes, at least in my opinion, there's still to this day numerous diseases that comes with old age. And one of them is arthritis, which causes swelling, stiffening, and extreme pain in the joints. And according to the National Library of Medicine, almost 1.3 million adults in the US suffer from this condition. But they could all live a different life in the metaverse. There, you could create an avatar that represents how you perceive yourself, and far more important, you can win back control over your own life. And there's an example that I want to provide you guys with to really show you a fascinating mind that was trapped in a failing body. So on January 8, 1942, a young boy was born in Oxford, England. He was given the name Stephen William Hawking. When the boy grew up, he discovered a way to measure and understand more about the origin of the entire universe. So to say that Hawking had a great mind is no exaggeration, but his mind or his body was a different story, because Hawking was diagnosed with ALS. And according to the ALS organization, the disease affects the nerve cells in the brain, causing a loss of muscle control. But his incredible mind kept him alive for nearly 72 years, which is unheard of. But he spent many of those years trapped in a wheelchair, only able to communicate through a computer. So what if he would have had access to the virtual reality of the metaverse? What could he have accomplished there? And imagine how many more people there are out there with minds just as great as Hawking's that have been silenced due to physical limitations. What could they have meant for humanity? And there's another horrible consequence of all this that I want to talk about, and that is depression. The National Institute on Aging describes depression as feelings of hopelessness, worthlessness, and thoughts of death. That's the heartbreaking reality for the older generation trapped in their own body. And my grandmother, she's old, like born way before World War II old. But despite all that, she's still to this day a working author. But in the last couple of years, she's changed. And sometimes I don't even recognize her anymore. She used to be this happy woman, curious about the world around her, and today she suffers from severe depression. Frankly, she's scared of death, but even more so of spending her last days on this earth, in her own words, as a vegetable. So what if the metaverse was already a reality? Maybe she could once more become the woman that I still remember. But the metaverse wouldn't only be beneficial to the individual affected by old age, but to everyone surrounding them, their entire families. So take a moment and look around you. Look to the person beside you, to the right, to the left, behind you, in front of you, and across the room. Take them all in. Many months ago, we took all of this for granted, but that changed and we became isolated from the world around us. But today, we can be grateful to be back together again in a classroom just like this. But what if that isolation was irreversible? And from that point forward, you were left all alone in this world. That's the life of the older generation, isolated from the people around them. And yes, these last couple of years have been different, to say the least. COVID-19 changed our entire realities, and 6 feet apart, lockdowns and isolation became part of day-to-day life, especially if you're part of a high-risk group, such as being over a certain age. But even before the pandemic, we lived in a highly globalized society, with people scattered across the globe. I'm a personal example of this, right? I live here in the United States, but my family does not. My family lives in Spain, in Sweden, in the UK, in Finland, and in France. And that means that I don't get to see them that much, especially my grandmothers. But that will be all different in the metaverse. Here, elderly, having to isolate themselves, could still join for family gatherings. You could still explore the world together, and old age would no longer stop you. For example, your 90-year-old grandfather could go on the world's highest drop tower with you for your birthday. That would all be possible in the metaverse. So we talked about the benefits for the person and for the family, but what about the entirety of our society? Okay, everyone listen up. On the count of 3, I want you all to punch yourself in the face as hard as you can, okay? 1, 2, okay, we're not gonna do that, because we don't wanna do that, right? And that's my point, because we've been struck in the head before by, I don't know, a door, a ball, or for all I know, a falling coconut. But again, that's the point. We've learned from our experiences. And who has more experiences than the people older than us? No one. That is the literal definition of experiences. You get more the more you live. So what if we could utilize those experiences far more than we're currently doing? Because sadly today, we often view old folks as a problem that needs to be cared for and not as an asset that we can learn from. How amazing wouldn't it be to be able to talk to the older generation that are today just shoved away and neglected? Survivors from World War II could have meetings in the metaverse that you and I could attend. Who better to learn history from than those who were there witnessing its making? Elderly people could still contribute to our society. And the last thing I want to talk about is, of course, economics. Because with everything that I talked about, with isolation and depression, there's no wonder that we spend an enormous amount of money on mental care for elderly, especially filling their bodies with antidepressant medication. And according to Wharton, Seavine, and Russell at the University of Michigan Department of Psychiatry, depression is among the top 10 most costly diseases in America today. And they state that elderly suffering from depression receives up to 3 hours of additional informal care each week compared to those without depression, for a total cost of $9 billion nationwide. $9 billion every year. But in the metaverse, that would mean that depression would lessen in retirement homes, because it would give their life meaning again. Because an activated mind does not deteriorate. So yeah, it's easy to only choose to see the bad things that could come with this new way of living. It's new, unexplored territory, and it can be scary, believe me, I understand. But it's vital to remember how life-changing it can be for both people and for the entire society. Because the metaverse will happen, it will benefit the older generation, and it will change lives. And I think that in 60 years or so, when it's you and me affected by old age, we will be grateful for this new way of living. At least I know I will. Because the metaverse will change our entire future. Thank you so much for listening.